I'm Jan Doyle. Welcome to Classroom Connections. Today's show is a little bit different. I have 3 guests on rather than the usual 1 or 2, but I'm so happy to have them there. I know all of them personally, so that's a special treat for me. I'd like to welcome first Susan Truxas, who's the Associate Minister at the First Congregational Church in Brantford. Welcome, Susan.
Evening.
I'd like Lil Sakai, who is the Stephen Minister leader for our church. Welcome, Lil.
Thank you.
And Fred Cotton, who's also a Stephen Minister. And it's so good to see you smile, Fred.
Oh,
it really is good. Today, we're here to talk about specifically about an upcoming event at the First Congregational Church in October. It's October 24th, and it's a Stephen Minister workshop. But we'd like to go into a little background and to give the audience a little information about what it's all about, because it's not just for Brantford. It's a nationwide organization that is, the focus is out to help the everyday man. So let's just get right into it. So I'd like to start with, Susan, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell me, first of all, what is the Stephen Ministry all about?
I'd really be happy to tell you a little bit about that, Jan, because I've been involved in the program for over 20 years at 3 different churches.
Wow.
And so I have seen the value of this ministry, both for congregations as well as the individuals involved, whether they're Stephen ministers or the recipients of Stephen ministry care. Mm-hmm. And I guess the program, as it defines itself, would say it's a system for training and developing lay people to provide one-on-one Christian care to people who are hurting for one set of circumstances or another.
And you just said 2 very important words. One, lay people. So you mean the everyday man. You don't mean...
Or woman.
Oh, good point. Good point. Sorry. Don't take offense. So the everyday person. And you also use the word Christian.
Yes,
and can
it
you
is.
elaborate a little bit on that?
A lay person can be a person of great faith, wisdom, and experience, but they're not ordained. Correct. They are members of the church. So some of the Stephen ministers are ordained, but the vast majority are people drawn from the congregation by the sense of wanting to be involved in care for others. Mm-hmm. And this program is very clearly identified as a Christian program, so that Christian resources like the scriptures and references to Jesus and so forth are a great part of God's effort to heal.
Yes, and we're going to be getting into it later, but it really helps people who are hurting in a variety of situations, which is very important. Now, I just want you to, the word Stephen Minister is kind of unusual, actually, and that's the name of the whole program. What does that involve?
Well, way back in the early church, when the apostles were busy spreading the gospel and founding new churches and taking care of believers, there was so much work to do that a new group of people were called forth, and they were called deacons. Mm-hmm. And they provided both the compassionate care for people as they went through life, as well as some of the material needs that they would have, whether it be food or money to exist. And Stephen was one of the first deacons to be called in the early church. Unfortunately, he met a very sad end and was stoned and martyred, but many Christian denominations recognize him as Saint Stephen, and the day after Christmas is called Saint Stephen Day. So he was a caregiver.
Wow. And I have in my notes that over 12,000 churches across the United States are working in this area and have the Stephen Ministry
That's right.
program.
A good many congregations in this country are enrolled, in Canada, in 27 other countries. So it is a very big program, well thought out. It's been in existence since 1975, and their materials and resources and outlines and DVDs and books are very, very well created and very useful. So the program is easy to plug into place with the right kind of people and the right kind of caring.
Yeah, and the right support that they have, because someone is not out there on their own doing this. There's a lot of support that we'll talk more about.
Absolutely.
Now, my next question is, what is this care and support all about? Who would like to take that question? Well, would you like to, or Fred, would you like, what does the care and support mean when we offer care and support?
Well, it's a one-on-one situation, typically someone who's in crisis of some sort, whether they're just recently divorced, maybe they lost a job, maybe something even more serious like losing a child, and they're in a crisis mode, and the support really is just, again, one-on-one caregiving, where we would meet with that person typically once a week for about an hour and just spend some time and help them get through that grieving process or whatever crisis they might be in.
Now, I have on an information sheet that I received, and they made a very, very good point on this sheet, that after the immediacy of whatever crisis, many times there are people who come and they call you, they send you cards, they visit, they bring food, but then they stop because everyone has to get on with their own life. And that's really the opportune time for a Stephen minister to come into place. How does that work exactly for someone to come in place at that point?
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly what the purpose is. In particular, you know, the ministerial staff of the church can't possibly keep up with all the people in the congregation that have that kind of a need. So it's really, again, as all the other people have kind of melted away and all the casserole dishes are gone and all the people are getting on with their lives, the person is left oftentimes alone to deal with what's bothering them. So again, it's just some continuity of care, really, that someone is there on a consistent basis, sitting with them and kind of going through that process. And
now, you made an interesting point that I had a discussion the other day on, and I have to be honest with you, I never even really gave it a thought. You have a minister, you might have an associate minister, maybe there might be a third one.
You might.
And then you have this huge congregation, and then all these people have their problems and their needs, and they go, I never really even considered the fact that it's not humanly possible for a minister to attend to all those needs.
Well, it's also a very confidential, tender time. So we don't talk about how hurting someone is and how we're tending to them, but the need spreads out, and the more people that are involved confidentially and tenderly in caring for their hurting brothers and sisters, the greater the care can be. So it's a great resource for it. And one of the words that I like to use about what happens in this one-on-one relationship is the Stephen minister accompanies another person. We don't solve their problem. We're not therapists.
Right.
We don't run errands for them. We don't fix their dinner. But we accompany them through this tender, poignant time until they're strong enough to carry on their path by themselves with God's help. So we accompany them.
You know, you just said something that I thought was very, very interesting, what you don't do, because I think that sometimes people can expect you to do those things, like bring you dinner, and I forgot.
Other caregivers do that, not
yes,
Stephen minister.
not a Stephen minister. And so what you just explained is you have definite boundaries around the relationship. And that's absolutely necessary, because I can really see where someone who is hurting is going to overstep those boundaries. What are some other boundaries you might have?
I was going to say, Lil, why don't you talk a little bit about what we try and do when we prepare Stephen ministers for their one-on-one relationship? What are some of the things we cover in the 50 hours of training?
Yes, we do have a 50-hour, very intensive training session that goes over a period of time, as agreed upon by the leaders and the new training group. And we have two rather sizable textbooks, if you will, and a lot of supplementary materials. And that consists of lessons on certain topics,
Like, for
like
example,
confidentiality,
Oh, good.
boundaries, and what we do and do not do. What we do is attentive listening and compassionate caregiving, and that's what we stress. And we are a sounding board for people who are hurting, and we're trained on various aspects of being good listeners. And we're trained to not be fixers of the problem, but rather just accompany, like Susan said, accompany the person who is having this crisis. We're also trained on role playing. We do quite a bit of role playing so that we are very aware of what we should say and do and what we should not say and do, because we are not trained counselors or doctors or ministers or advice givers. We are there to listen and pray and maybe read scripture with the hurting person, but just there to accompany.
Well, Lil, I could really see you in this role, actually, too. And I'm sure you're extremely effective in this role, because even now you seem very caring and calm, whereas I'm thinking, if I was the person, what do you mean? Let me just tell you what to do and let's get you out the door, which is not the way it's supposed to go.
No.
I know that. That's why I'm not a Stephen minister.
But
I'm
it's so human.
yeah.
And almost all of us in the training class said, gee, we just want to fix this problem and get on to the next thing. It seems so easy from where we're sitting to fix it. But
Well, I feel, and knowing Fred the way I do, and absolutely you're absolutely wonderful role models for this, because you do have that calm and caring personality. You mentioned something that I thought was very interesting. You say you role play. In my experience in my professional life, we did a lot of role playing because that helped you practice what to do. And I think we talked about a role play here. Someone was going to get a divorce. Now I'm going to let you get a divorce because you're not married. And I don't want Fred.
No,
I don't want your wife to get worried. No. I don't want her to hear it first on TV.
No, that would not be good.
Not be
No.
good.
No.
So why don't you start and say you have this problem and you're getting a divorce and yada yada yada.
so I just begin.
Yeah.
So what's up, Lil?
Susan, I just feel like a balloon that's been deflated. I have absolutely no energy, no air in my balloon. I'm just always sad, always depressed, always anxious. And I feel like I'm really bitter. Like I can't believe the circumstances that I found myself in suddenly one
Just because
day.
you got a divorce? Oh, come on, girl.
It was a showstopper for my life.
Oh, listen,
honestly,
let me tell you about my divorce that was 3 years ago. It was wicked at the time. I thought I was going downhill. But I'm telling you, I am a happy camper right now, so give it up, girl.
So I guess I'm not doing this thing properly.
No. So now what I'm hearing is that you're not listening to her. You changed the focus back to yourself.
Really?
And I'm hearing that poor Lil is out there with all her feelings not supported. So Fred, I want you to now show me what a Stephen minister would say to her in this situation.
Okay.
Fred, I've just really been having a tough time. I can't seem to put one foot forward because I feel like I'm constantly going backwards. And I'm sad and depressed and I'm anxious and I'm having trouble at work. And I really just don't know what I'm going to do. I can't seem to function.
Are there certain times of the day when you feel a little bit better, that you're like this all the
Always
time?
down.
And how about your coworkers at work? Are they helpful to you at all? Or?
Not particularly.
No.
They have happy marriages, houses full of kids.
What kind of things did you used to do that you used to enjoy when you were married that maybe you could do now?
Well, I used to enjoy outdoor activities and traveling and
You
Camping
don't feel
and
comfortable
reading.
doing that alone now? Do you have a friend maybe that you could think about doing something like that with?
Well, I suppose I could try to renew some old friendships, maybe.
How about, do you have a network of friends that you spend time with?
I spent mostly all of my time just doing things with my ex-husband, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's extremely difficult to just kind of change your whole life and the routines that you've been in. And I think it's probably something that takes a little bit of time just to kind of get adjusted to.
Well, it's clear to me that I did not take the Stephen Ministry training, so I flunked. But I hear Fred being compassionate and listening and reflecting that that's going to take a long time. And I think were you feeling better with
Yes,
Fred
I
than
think
with
Fred
me, Lil?
did offer me a little bit of hope, and he was helping me rise up from a bad situation, whereas I think Susan was sort of like blaming me that I wasn't handling my crisis
So
properly.
you felt worse.
So I felt like, oh no.
Well, that's interesting because I felt worse for you, and I mean,
started
and we
seeing
all
me
made
sweating.
we all made this up. But I think it's very interesting because the role play that went on, it wasn't helpful at all, and you went over boundaries, etc. But when I listened to Fred, I feel immensely better. I feel
Well, that's
calm,
good.
and I'm thinking, yeah, I need to get my network of friends going.
right.
Yeah.
Really, and so I'm feeling better. Thank you, Fred.
good. I'm glad
And
that
I was
worked.
divorced 30 years ago. It's taken me 30 years to understand that. So, but the point of all of this is that what his demeanor and the training, and I know you have it also, and I'm sure you do too, where that's how you help somebody, and if anybody was a fly on the wall, they just feel better and they see their own way out. You know, you're helping her see an action she can do that will help her move. And you were saying, well, maybe, and you gave her some scenarios, as opposed to, I wanted to rush in and say a couple of things that I thought she should do, and that was it.
Excuse me for interrupting,
That's
that's
all right.
the beauty of the whole thing. We practice this here in terms of our ministry, but we realize as we work on it that it overflows into all of life, because most of the time we want to fix our children or our spouse or our friends' problems, and we don't realize that we are reducing the opportunity for their healing because we're so anxious. So it works not only in the ministerial relationships, people have commented how useful it is in every aspect of their life. So that's one reason I feel that it works both for the congregation, but also for the people that enroll in the program and they carry it into their ordinary lives.
Yeah,
I found
I
that.
agree with that. We only have
did.
about 10 minutes left.
Oh,
And
gosh,
so
we could go on forever.
I know. I told you this goes really, really fast, but no one believes me. But I just want to make sure that we talk about the workshop itself. Now, can you tell me about the workshop on October 24th, please? What is that all about?
Well, the Stephen Ministry program, which we've said is very broad-based, is eager to give additional congregations a chance to understand how the program works and enroll in it so that the caregiving continues to broaden out. And so we volunteered to be a host congregation for other congregations in the area to attend this workshop, which will be staffed and run and organized and presented by professionals from the headquarters in St. Louis.
So you're now doing the speaking at this workshop.
No, Lil can tell you a little bit more about how people are invited and what they can experience at the workshop.
The Stephen Ministry headquarters sent out shipments of materials to over 1,000 churches in a 35-mile radius or maybe even 50-mile radius of Branford. And then they followed that shipment of publicity materials with a letter signed by the pastor of our church, personally inviting that congregation to participate in our workshop. And then our Stephen Ministry team will be following that up with some phone calls, some personal visits. We'll be putting up some posters in various areas that are highly visible. And I was fortunate to be able to speak with our workshop presenter on the telephone last night, and she is a lovely, very animated, knowledgeable, enthusiastic, positive person, and she's coming from Dallas, Texas, to do our workshop presentation.
Now, let me ask you this. Can people off the street or seeing this on TV, can they register for this workshop? Because my understanding was that they can, but they have to bring it back to a church, and the church has to be the one to initiate contact with the Stephen ministers. Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe so, Susan.
I
a
think
person
so,
could
too.
walk into the workshop, but then he or she would need to then join the program with
the church,
that
their church's
church that
backing.
she or he is attending.
What is the cost of the workshop?
The workshop, for a congregation can send 4 participants for $50 or 1 participant for $15. And our church, because we're the host church, any member of our congregation can attend as part of the program. So it's a minimal cost, but every time someone makes an investment, they're likely to follow through on it.
Right, right, I understand that.
And I think the workshop is structured in an interesting fashion. The first session is about how we deal with grief. And then there's a second segment that talks about how the Stephen ministry operates, a little bit like we've been talking about tonight. And then the third session is how to care in a distinctively Christian way.
And that's an interesting distinction, because it adds another layer to all of this, to the workshops. It's not just non-Christian.
No, and it's not just social work or therapeutic or psychological. It does rely on faith resources. And yes, it is Christian, but I personally have worked with some Jewish people being sensitive about their God and their Old Testaments, and the Psalms are used by all of us. So while it's particularly Christian, it can be used sensitively with people of other faith.
My director,
or no faith,
my
probably.
director is going to be telling me in a second how much time we have left, but I want to make sure that we have a way for people to contact. They can contact at the Brantford Congregational Church and ask the secretary questions. But who would like to read the website for the group?
That's you. Well,
Okay. So you can go to visit www.stephenministry.org/workshop, or you can call the Stephen Ministries headquarter office at 314-428-2600.
would you say that again?
Once again, www.stephenministry.org/workshop, or call Stephen Ministries at 314-428-2600.
Okay, thank you. We have about 5 minutes left, he just mentioned to me. So I just wanted to go over a little bit more about the training. Now, after they attend this workshop, then the actual training is about 50 hours. And
If the congregation enrolls,
okay,
it
that's a good distinction.
becomes part of the Stephen Ministry program. So once they're tempted by this and another congregation enrolls, then they're lifetime members and have access to all the resources and training materials and so forth of the headquarters materials.
Okay, and then the other distinction I wanted to make, which I thought was very interesting and very good, a Stephen minister is not your best friend. It is not someone you call to go out to lunch. Fred, is that why we don't go out to lunch?
Well, we could go out to lunch. You're not my Steve.
Oh, okay, I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
As long as you're buying.
So, but you're not there. Do you find that some people call you, Lil, that want to go out with you all the time or hang with you or whatever?
I've been in the program about 2.5 years, and I've not particularly had that instance personally, but I believe it might have happened to some of our other Stephen ministers. But the training that we receive is very thorough and very detailed about how to handle just about any scenario that one would encounter on this journey.
And in a loving, careful, caring way.
And very diplomatically and with love and compassion.
Yes.
And,
so if I asked you, will you go out to lunch with me, you wouldn't say no. You would say it in a way that wouldn't hurt my feelings. It would mean no, but you would sort of lead me to understand why that's not appropriate for us to go out to lunch as a Stephen minister and a client.
if we were in a Stephen
Yeah, if we
ministry
were, yes.
relationship where I
Yes.
was the care provider and you were the receiver.
Yes, and so with
Yes.
any of those things, it wouldn't hurt the person's feelings. Now-
Another important thing that happens is peer supervision. So when you have a care receiver, there's an ongoing peer supervision. So we get together as a group. Again, confidentiality is very important. So, but we talk about our care receivers in a very confidential way, and we get help from the other Stephen ministers
Right.
in terms of how to handle situations.
If there are issues or problems,
right.
we deal with
So
them
there's a lot of support.
I think the fact what you said is important. It has a friendly tone to it, but it is not mutual. And that's why in that role play I was so erroneous by taking it into myself and telling her how I handled it. The time belongs to the care receiver, and I respond with friendship and compassion, but I don't share my own, take over and share my own story to excess.
That's a wonderful distinction. And I think that also, that's why the boundaries have to be set up. We're just about out of time, and I was hoping that you would just read the website again, or for people who can contact. But while she's getting ready to do that, if you're interested and you can't remember what she says, you can always go to the First Congregational Church in Branford, Google it so you get their phone. Do you remember their phone number off the top of your head?
203-488-7201.
That is very good.
488-7201.
That is
Call
wonderful.
us.
Call
Trained
us.
operators will be standing by. Volunteers.
Volunteer, yes.
We have a lot of volunteers at the church who answer the phone. So
Okay.
they will be informed. But if you would like to access the website to get more information, it's www.stephenministry.org/workshop, or call them at 314-428-2600.
Now, if you're not putting this on your own personal DVD and you forget all of this, you can always contact me at jmdteach@comcast.net, or you can always contact the studio here and they can send me an email. So we've got you covered no matter which way you're going. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
having
And
us.
we do
Thank
hope
you.
people will come and experience
do.
this and carry it on.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds absolutely wonderful. I think everybody could use it just for their own personal life.
Absolutely.
It's a proven equation for success.
Mm-hmm.
If we implement the program the way it's designed and use the materials and the resources and the training that we've received properly, it is a winning combination.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Susan, Lil, Fred.
Thanks, Jan.
It's wonderful. Thank
It's
you.
been fun.
Thank you, Jan.